Good day, beautiful souls. I am your host, the Trail Delord from Southern Tea with a Twist podcast, and I am here to do check-in part 4 of my self-care 52-week journey. And so, as I am wrapping up the final week that breaks down each self-care concept, which is your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, and your emotional health. So, part 4 was emotional self care. Emotional self care is about practicing self awareness and developing the skills to manage your emotions in a healthy way. It includes things such as boundary setting and self reflection. These are really important skills for maintaining a healthy mental health in the long term. A key part of emotional self care is self compassion, understanding that you are human and undesirable emotions such as jealousy and anger are valid and deserve to be explored. So that was the entry into week 4. Again, after there's a assessment, you rate yourself 1 never, 2 rarely, 3 sometimes, 4 often. Think about your self care behaviors in relations to your emotional health over the past 14 days. Pinpoint which areas to prioritize over the next 14 days. So, 14 days ago for me was May 18th. I gave myself praise and or positive affirmations. I allowed myself to cry. I have a hard time with that. I allowed myself to laugh. I opened up to a close friend or family member. I attended a counseling slash therapy session. I paid attention to my body to help me identify my emotions. I tried to regulate my emotions. I expressed my emotions in a healthy way. I spent time with positive people. So that was the self-care assessment. Um, the following day is a emotion check-in. So again, you just use this page to journal your feelings. There's a prompt. What area of your life are you most happy with, and how did you get to that point? The next following day, which is, let me try to be a little bit more, which is negative thoughts, which was day 24. In the world we live in, it's easy to internalize negative messages. Write down negative thoughts that you have about yourself. Use the next page to investigate your most common or distressing thought. So with, again, emotional self-care is all about identifying your emotions, understanding them, and the negative thoughts that comes with it. And then the following page was challenging your negative thoughts. And so there's different prompts. What is the negative thought? What evidence do you have to support this thought? What evidence do you have against this thought? What might you say to a friend who expressed this thought? How does this thought make you feel? If this thought is true, what is the worst case scenario as a result? Imagine a future free from this thought. What would you do? So that was a little challenging in a sense, but I've had homework assignments with being in therapy to work through my thoughts, understand why my thoughts is the way that I'm thinking, and how to transfer them into positive thoughts and remove that negative energy. The day 25 was boundary setting. So if you've been following me on social media, then you know I've mentioned a few times about boundary setting and how important it is when you are building relationships or managing your own self-care and your journey. You have to set boundaries with family and friends, even with your children. Like, boundary setting is important, not just for the people around you, but for yourself, with what you're willing, what you're receiving, how you're dishing it out, and how you're internalizing all of that. So saying no can be hard, but practice makes perfect. Fill in the blanks to fit your situation and use the templates below for different scenarios. When you want to maintain relationships and still be helpful. I don't feel comfortable / have enough experience to help you with this, but fill in the blank might be able to. When you want to stop someone, like it should be from, taking advantage of your good nature. I can't do fill in the blank, but I'll be happy to show you how to do it yourself. When you need to call someone out in a nice way. That's what I'm trying to work on. I'm sure you didn't mean to, but when you said blank, it made me feel blank. When you need to say no to your boss or family member or friend or whomever. I can do this, but it will mean blank will be delayed. Are you happy for me to focus on this instead? When you need to prioritize yourself. I've loved to help, but I don't have time for anything except fill in the blank right now. So that was a very helpful exercise, as well as the following day, which is trigger setting, trigger tracking. A trigger is an experience that causes old emotions and behaviors to arise. One of the best ways to overcome triggers is to be aware of them. A great way to do this is to write down your experiences and over time spot patterns. Answer the questions below. Every time you find yourself experiencing an unwanted emotional response or behavior. So, the people, person, things that trigger me. Where and when did I feel triggered? Who else was there and how did this affect your behavior? How did you feel afterwards? What purpose did your response serve? What would you do differently if faced with this trigger again? Again, I have somewhat experience working through these trigger emotions, because that was something I had to focus on in therapy and identify and use my words to express those triggers. And yeah, it was a process. And then day 28 wrapped it up by categorizing triggers. The better you understand what triggers you, the easier it will be to mitigate the unwanted emotional response or behavior. Now that you've identified patterns, use the previous exercise, categorize them in the boxes below. So there's boxes for you to identify people that trigger you, places, things, thoughts, and situations. So that was week 4 with emotional self-care. So again, there were 4 parts. Part 1 was your mental self-care, your physical self-care, your spiritual self-care, and your emotional self-care. Now that I have wrapped up these 4 parts, I can identify what areas that I need to prioritize for myself. And for me, those areas are: 1, my spiritual self-care; 2, my mental self-care; 3, my emotional self-care; and the final would be my physical self-care. But I am working on having a consistent balance of all 3 of those self-cares as I create and manage my self-care routine and regimen. I hope this video was helpful. Be sure to look out for more videos. Until next time, beautiful souls.